that initiative that's going on there with the wild and crazy world of the United Conservative Party and the constant battles. Hey, David, how's it going?
Hey, Corey, good to see you. I believe
Yeah.
last time I was on your show it wasn't quite as beautiful, so things are really improving at the Western Standard, I see.
Oh, our technology has come a long way.
Yeah, it's going up. And also, I want to say that the last time I was on your show, I was a little bit inebriated and a little unkind, and I'd like to apologize for that. And I did
That's okay.
say that if Aaron O'Toole didn't win 10 seats, my whole reputation was on the line, so I have to eat crow on that. And Aaron O'Toole was not nearly as good as I thought he was, but you were right on that. So just
It
wanted
was
to
I
thank you for
appreciate
that.
it was a good part of the early stages of the show to learn about everything I've been developing as well. So, okay, when we start getting a little, because I got all worked up during that too. I'm a much better temper now. I wait until after the show before I really start cursing and swearing. So it was all part of the building. So it's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
So getting on a little more contemporary though, and no less contentious. You guys, I guess your group is Take Back Alberta, and the bottom line is you're organizing to make sure enough people go to Red Deer on April 9th and register and vote to change out the leader of the UCP. I guess that's kind of it in a nutshell, right?
Well, Take Back Alberta is more than just that. We're very much an educational organization that's trying to teach civic values to Albertans because, as you probably know, Canada is the least civically engaged nation on earth. Less than 1% of Canadians own memberships in political parties, and less than 0.15% of those people donate, volunteer, and sit on boards. And I mean, as a former political activist yourself to some degree, I'm sure you know how little people like to get involved in these things, right?
Oh, yeah.
So what I really see Take Back Alberta as is a way of showing people how to get involved and how to actually make a difference, because there's a lot of people that are very angry with Jason Kenney. I think we saw a poll recently that came out in the Western Standard saying that over 60% of UCP members want Jason Kenney to resign. So I think a lot of Albertans want this, but a lot of them don't know how the process works, and things like special general meetings or annual general meetings, that's not part of their regular life. So you got to kind of walk them through the process, but we've been massively successful at explaining it to people, I think.
Okay, so we've got the meeting coming up, and there's some deadlines, there's some numbers, there's some costs associated with it. I mean, whether people wants to go there and support Premier Kenney or to vote against, maybe if you could walk us through what the process is if they wanted to take part in that.
Yeah, so it's you have to be a member of the United Conservative Party before April 9th, before March 19th. And that's because there's a 21-day cool-off period before an event, just so like people can't find out what the numbers are and dump a whole bunch of more people in, so you can help plan the event, things like that. You also have to spend $99 on what's called an SGM ticket, Special General Meeting Ticket. And that ticket is a part of covering the costs of the event. We think there's going to be a lot more people than the party had planned for. Initially, the party planned for 2,800 people to attend. I believe this morning I heard that it might be over 9,000, although that's not fully confirmed. But you're here to hear first that there are speculations that it could be over 9,000 already.
That will make for quite some logistical challenges. I mean, a lot of people want to take part in this. This is what was contentious, and a lot of people were upset about with the push for leadership review. A lot wanted to give members the ability to vote from home, or remote vote or mail-in vote or something, because getting people physically to a location for that many on a vote is I mean, the lineups and everything, even if it's half of that speculation, are going to be quite something at that center.
Yeah, so I think, well, we know for a fact that 4,900 people have signed up. That was in Don Braid's article yesterday, I believe. But I believe it's a lot more than that. There seems to be some technical issues around registrations right now. Their site seems to be going down quite frequently, so they're not actually able to get the exact number. But I believe that we'll see somewhere between 12 and 15,000 people attend. As for the logistics, my organization is providing parking, and we are planning staging areas for members of our organization, which will have shuttle buses, so you don't have to worry about parking. If you'd like to get involved with that or help us in any way, you can sign up at www.tba2022.ca, and you will receive a phone call within 24 to 48 hours asking how you'd like to be involved. Encouraging people to get involved on that, because we are going to need a lot of help for the logistics of this.
Yeah, you know, I've got a commenter, Tammy Lucas, saying, you know, I can't afford that. Sadly, I'd be all over it, and that's part of okay. There's a balance. A live event costs a lot of money. You've got to have a fee if you're going to recover it. It is a political party, uh, but I mean, it cuts both ways too. I mean, again, there's some people who might support Premier Kenny, but they don't have the means and the ability to get out and do that. The other part is though, just to remind everybody who might want to take part, that price goes up if you wait too long, right? Like that's the early bird rate.
Yeah, so March 19th, so you can register up until the day of the event, up until 11 o'clock on the day of. But if you register after March 19th, which you must be a member for, I got to reiterate that you have to be a member before March 19th. After March 19th, you can still register, but it's $149. And at the door, it's $249. So I recommend people register before the 19th just to save themselves a little money.
Well,
Now,
absolutely, and these are tight times.
in terms of cost, and there's people who genuinely suffered through government mandates and things like that, no longer have jobs, no longer have the same kind of means that perhaps they did before. We are more than happy to help with busing, getting you gas cards for your trip. And we can't buy the SGM ticket for you. That's against the rules, but we have it under legal advisement that we can afterwards give you a gift of a grocery card or a gas card, right? And so whoever you vote for, we want this to be a democratic process. If you really would like your SGM ticket covered, and you have to have a means for it, right? I tell all the crowds when I go to our meetings, I say, if you can't afford $100 for your freedom, but you can go and drink 3 times a week at the bar, then you have bad priorities. However, if you really are struggling financially, we're more than happy to help you.
Yeah, with transportation and things such as that.
Exactly.
And I mean, it's a fair enough rule. We don't want a larger group to be able to just, you know, pay the full freight for somebody. They have to be committed to get in and take part whatever
Exactly.
way they're
I
going to
think
go.
it's important, yeah, to have some skin in the game, right? The truckers had a lot of skin in the game when they went to Ottawa. It cost them a lot. They risked a lot. I was talking to one that's a friend of mine last night, even, and he told me that they've taken away his license to drive a truck, so now he's losing a lot of money, right? I might put him in touch with you, and maybe you can have him on to talk about that. But
Absolutely.
I think they had a lot of skin in the game, and we should put some skin in the game too, because this is about sending a message to our government about how we feel about what's happened.
So getting to a more local level, and this is something you've commented on recently, and it's another part of the democratic exercise. This isn't new with the UCP or any party, but it's getting pretty bad and pretty ugly. Is the nomination process? This is where people get to, if they're members, they can take out a membership and choose their local representative. And there've been some challenges against incumbents, and now 2 out of 2 of those have been disqualified for. Yeah, I agree. I think some very shaky grounds on past social media postings.
Well, sorry, one sec. Yep, I think it's very odd because Jody Gateman was on the board of the United Conservative Party, and Jason Kenney asked her to be on the board of the United Conservative Party. So to disqualify her for posts she made before he asked her to be on the board means a couple of things. One would probably be that he didn't do his due diligence before, if this is what he truly believes now. Or maybe it just means that he's now disqualifying people on trumped up charges because he doesn't want to have to deal with people who don't agree with his leadership. And actually, I'm going to be honest, I find it pretty sad that Jason Kenney is calling the people that helped get him elected racists to hold on to power. It's really pathetic, really. And I hope that people see through just the blatant lies that a desperate man is making.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the character assassination of Ms. Gateman on this. I mean, I've known her for a long time as well. We served on the provincial executive together with the Wild Rose Party, and I'm sorry, I saw no indications of crazed racism or anything like that. I mean, I understand a degree of vetting. That makes sense, but come on, it's very flimsy. And not only that, but to disqualify and then shoot at her after the disqualification. I don't think he's doing himself any favors here. I mean, these are established grassroots operators with wide networks of people, and you're upsetting them further when you take this sort of tact. I don't know. I'm something of a democratic purist to a degree that these nominations, and it's always been a challenge. I mean, unless there's something outstandingly odious with a candidate, which is fair enough, this is the process of vetting. Let them get in on the race, and that's the time, you know, if they're in and running and you say, hey, this person's got a really questionable history, and I trust the members to say, oh yeah, you know what? I don't want that person representing me. But leave
Yeah,
it to the members.
exactly. Isn't that democracy, right? Where we say to people, "Hey, here's the truth about these people." When you run for office, fundamentally what you're doing is you're putting your past on display and saying, "You know what? Maybe I made mistakes. Here's how I've tried to fix them." That's what it should be, right? Or, you know, if they're hiding mistakes they made, those things need to be revealed. Shine light on these things. I think if anyone looked into Jason Nixon's past, it would be quite astonishing that he's having a candidate with an upstanding moral character. Like, I'll put my reputation on the line here, hopefully better than I did last time I was on your show. But I will say there are very few people I believe have more of an upright character than Tim Hovan. My mom has known his family for years. I didn't know him until he decided to run. I've only seen him from the news articles and talked to him, but the community support that he has. I'm sure you heard of the over 200 letters that were sent to Derek, testifying to his character after the slanderous emails were sent by the LNC, which is the local nomination committee. So it's become a bit of absurd, to be honest, right? Like, this is a genuinely good man, and now they're trying to slander him as a white supremacist. It's sad.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of ugly political playing, and then I guess part of it though was he did let a nomination go up in Fort McMurray, and his preferred candidate got the floor wiped with him by Brian Jean. So now, I mean, Jason Kenney's in a very difficult position. He's got a person who very probably is going to be elected to be in part of his caucus this Tuesday, who is running essentially against his own leader.
Yeah, I think I understand the reaction of someone who's cornered, right? These are not the actions of a rational man. They're not. This is strategically silly, right? Even if he was, a maniacal genius or a great organizer, you don't create enemies right before a vote for your future, right? And yet somehow, and I don't really understand it, he's decided to slander a good man whose riding is less than an hour away from the vote that will determine his future. It's sometimes when people are cornered, they start to act irrationally, and that seems to be what's going on here, I think. Of course, this is an almost impossible situation for him, right? If he lets Jason Nixon get taken out by a challenger, that's pretty humiliating. I mean, Jason Nixon is as Jason Nixon was going around the legislature saying, his prize pony, right? His favorite son. So, in fact, I know that Jason Kenney and Jason Nixon have been going around telling everyone that he would be the premier after Jason Kenney was gone, right? So, to lose a nomination for the guy that you've been going around telling everyone is amazing, well, I think that's a dangerous spot to be. So, I think that's why maybe they made the calculation. I just think it's very foolish.
So a valid question I've heard from a number of people, and I saw a commenter say though, I mean, is who would lead? I mean, again, that would come out down to a race, but there's no real. Well, aside from Brian Jean, who really is putting his name forward, not a lot of clear contenders to replace Jason Kenney if he were moved aside. I mean, the timeline starts getting really tight. We're a year away from a general election, and that's something people really have to think about too. If frustrated with Premier Kenney or not, are you going to replace him with somebody winnable if you pull him out at this point?
Well, I think that's actually an irrelevant question. I get asked it a lot, and this is my answer to it always is if Jason Kenney remains the leader of the United Conservative Party, Rachel Notley will be the next premier of Alberta. So the only way we have a chance of that not happening is if we get someone new. And here's the thing about politics that you know as well as I do, people really want to be premier. And whoever wins this leadership race will immediately be premier. So I think there's going to be a lot of people that will come out of the woodwork. I believe it's been reported on the Western Standard that Danielle Smith would run if the job was open. I know of at least 8 others who have approached me asking to help them in their leaderships. I've told them all the same thing that I'll say right now. I will never support a politician again. I'm only going to support the people. So my job I see going forward is organizing the people, teaching them how to be civically engaged, and then having them hold politicians' feet to the fire, because that's really what democracy is about, and we seem to have lost that.
And I think that's, ironically, um, Jason Kenney's strongest skill, I mean, he's always been a very skilled political operator. He's been born and raised almost into politics. He knows the game. He knows it federally and from the ground up with reform. But people are tired of the political play. They want policy. They want leadership. I mean, just because you know how to stack nominations and deal with these sorts of internal races, it's great that you have that talent, but in watching that operation, that's what sours people on the entire process and the people managing it. I mean, they really, it's in Alberta. We've always valued grassroots democracy, and we've really seen it erode this last couple of years.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is actually, and I say this to all of the rooms that I speak in every night, I say, this is the people's fault, right? It's our lack of engagement, we haven't been paying attention to what our politicians have been doing. We've mostly been rich and comfortable. And I like to say Canadians and Albertans even more so to a degree because of how wealthy we are. We didn't think we had to care about politics, but politics never stopped caring about us. And now people like yourself and I, we were involved most of that time, but we both know most people weren't, right? And one of the most encouraging things I've seen through this whole process with Take Back Alberta is the number of mothers that are getting involved. They're very excited about realizing that they can be civically engaged and that it isn't an impossible task or the scary thing. And they're doing amazing. They're putting together more events than I've ever seen of political organizers that are professionals do, right? So I'm very excited about the future of civic engagement in this province. And honestly, the only way that corruption prospers is when there's not a civically engaged population. So we can stop this. We can make things better, and I think we will.
Oh, fair enough. And the means are in our hands, and that's something I always, political wieners like us. Okay, we always bought memberships. We didn't need our arms twisted. But I mean, if people wonder why the tail so often politically wags the dog, it's because when you've got 1% to 2% of the population are the only ones taking part in partisan politics in any party, they have a disproportionately strong influence upon where that party is going to go. So, I mean, if you want to make sure your voice is a lot more heard than just when you go to the polls, join a party and take part.
Yeah, get involved. Like I got involved at 14, Corey, and at 23, I got to work. And I'm from a town, just so everyone knows, there's 8 houses where I grew up. And there's not a gas station for 30 kilometers, right? And from 14 to 23, I was working for the Prime Minister at 23 years old because I got involved when I was 14. Canadian politics is great for that. You get to do some awesome things if you just show up. So my request to people would be, get involved. Like our system isn't as broken as people think. It's that we're just not involved in it.
Well, I appreciate your coming on to talk to us about what you guys are up to. Maybe I'll let you close out just with a final statement and where we can find information on your organization and getting involved if they choose to.
Absolutely. Okay, so just thanks again, Corey, for having me on. Sorry about that first time, but I think we both enjoyed it, and
we'll fight about something else down the road.
Of course. Yeah, so the organization is called Take Back Alberta. You can find it at www.tba2022.ca. In terms of what's happening right now in our province, and there's a lot of fear and anger at what's happening, I say don't get angry, people. Don't get angry with corrupt people. Just deal with them. And the best way to deal with these corrupt people is to show up on April 9th, buy a membership before March 19th, and vote out Jason Kenney on April 9th. So right, thanks, Greg, for having me on.
Thank you. The clock's ticking, and we're going to have some answers soon, one way or another. So I'm sure we'll talk again soon, David.
Okay, thank you.